What drew me to it was Chimamanda's great book. I read the book, I think, around 2005. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with it, especially with the two central female characters, the twin sisters. And I had also, for a very long time, wanted to adapt Chinua Achebe's short story set during the during the Biafran War, Girls at War. And it turned out that Chimamanda's inspiration for Half of a Yellow Sun was Achebe's short story. They used to be neighbors when she was a kid, the Achebes and Chimamanda's family, and so she knew Achebe quite well. And I fell in love with it. I had been trying to make my debut as a filmmaker for quite a while at the time, and it was almost impossible. Project after project didn't see the light of day, and Half a Yellow Sun took about 6 years to happen. It took a long time, partly because it was so expensive, and that combined with the fact that I insisted that I wanted to direct it. And it was very important to me that I directed. The very reason I became a filmmaker was because living in the UK, an African writer, screenwriter, I got to a point where I got quite fed up, really tired of seeing my work on screen, directed by other people, and wanting to hide under my seat because I didn't recognize it and because it was embarrassing. And so I decided, on the advice actually of a mentor friend of mine, Danny Boyle, the filmmaker who directed my first screenplay ever and did an amazing job of it. And Danny, after I came complaining to him for the third or fourth time about someone just making a total mess of what I'd written, said to me, well, direct it yourself. Direct your next screenplay yourself. And I took his advice, but it took many years for that to happen, and that turned out to be Half a Yellow Sun.
Yes, I understand it took about almost 6 to 7 years to go from when you first started adapting it all the way to the screen. But that obviously, that suggests the tenacity that you have to sort of make movies. And it was, as I said, a huge budget by Nigerian standards. But I mean, as you said, you were a first-time movie director taking on such a big project. I mean, were you afraid that you had all that money from investors riding on your shoulders? I mean, 10 million smackaroos is not, you know, it's not to be sniffed at.
And I was aware of the responsibility, but fear wasn't really an option. I felt prepared. I'd spent a long time actually schooling myself. I had done a degree in drama, and I felt quite prepared. Although once we got to Calabar and the enormity of what I'd taken on hit me, I proceeded with some caution. But I was working with a first-class, world-class crew. I had Chiwetel Ejiofor, who is one of the greatest actors of his generation. I had Tandy Newton, who is an amazing actor. I had John Boyega. I had an amazing team. And every morning when I got up to go to set, I just could not wait to get on set. It was a tough shoot. It was an incredibly tough shoot, but I would do it all over again at the drop of a hat. I mean, it was amazing.
Just to kind of round off on the Half of a Yellow Sun saga, given how politically controversial the story of the Nigerian Civil War is. I mean, were you at all daunted by that aspect of it, that some might read political meaning into the editorial line that the film took?
I wasn't, and that was because I was incredibly naive. And you also have to remember that in 2006, 2007, when the whole process began, when we started trying to make the film, things were a lot more calm, a lot less divided in Nigeria. If anything, at the time, nobody actually really talked about the Civil War, about the Biafran War, with the exception of novelists like Chimamanda and Adichie. It wasn't, and Wole Soyinka, it wasn't something that you found anyone actually writing about.